Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this channel. Today, we'll be covering First Year After the War. This is part two in the video series, and today we'll be looking at the exam questions. Okay, like in the previous video, and I explained, oftentimes it's not that students don't know the content of the poem, they just struggle with answering. Okay, so we're just going to look at some examples of what you can expect in your paper 2 exam and how you can navigate that. Okay, so first things first, as you should know by now, learners, you need to look at the mark allocation. Okay, if it's 2 marks, you need to give 2 points or 2 sentences. You can't give, let's say, if you look at question number one, discuss the effectiveness of the metaphor wedding party. If you just, for example, state this first point here, a wedding is a celebration of two parties joining together, and the wedding metaphor in this context is used to describe the celebration of the end of apartheid. Excuse me. That is only 1 mark. Okay. There are two parts of this question. It says discuss the effectiveness of the metaphor. So where in this explanation are you explaining what effectiveness is? And again, if you don't know what effectiveness it means is the metaphor, is the image appropriate, right? Does it fit together? So if you have the image of a wedding party and the celebration of a wedding party, does that fit into the celebration of the end of apartheid? Does the two fit together? Is it effective? Does it correspond? Is it appropriate? Right? So, how do you explain in your answer if it's appropriate or effective, but you're not stating why it is effective, right? So, for the second mark, you need to say this metaphor is effective, right? The second question here about appropriate will deal with the same type of question, but we'll get to that now. Okay, so second point for this, for the second mark, this metaphor is effective because just as a married couple are now in unison at the beginning of a new life together, South Africans who were once divided are now at the beginning of a time of peace and harmony. So you kind of link the two together, right? Wedding party, a couple getting married, and the celebration of the new South Africa, and you bring the two together. That is why it is effective, right? If they had to say a divorce party, that would not be effective. That doesn't fit in with the celebration. Okay, so you need to just tune your brain into understanding effective, appropriate, right? Does it correspond? Does it fit together? Okay, next one, refer to lines 2 to 3. We saw a soft light coiling round the young blades of grass. Discuss the appropriateness of this image in the context of the poem. So the same, right? And the last one, it's a 3 mark question. So you need to discuss the appropriateness and in context of the poem. So you always have to refer to the central idea, the central message, or the theme of the poem. So I would say break it up and explain, right? The light refers to the first glimmers of hope, which gradually emerge from the darkness, and the light is soft because it is still new and delicate. So you should understand that from the previous video. And then we're going to further continue for our second mark. Hope is coiling around the blades of grass, and this suggests that it is vulnerable. Hope is vulnerable. Hope is tender and still needs to be nurtured. It's a new kind of hope because remember, South Africans are not used to this newfound freedom. Okay, and then now we need to say the image is appropriate because it suggests the new dawn for South Africa. Now we're going to link it to the context of the poem, right? We remember we speak about light after darkness, right? And young blades of grass. In this context, what does it mean in this poem, right? And we know that this poem is about celebration, freedom after oppression, and all of those things. So we need to fit it in together. Nonetheless, let me go over it one more time. The image is appropriate. Why is it appropriate and not effective? Because this question is asking for appropriateness, which is the same thing. Because it suggests the new dawn for South Africa, because the description of the grass suggests that although the vision of the future is still new, there is hope for that the new South Africa will flourish and peace will prevail. Okay. Young blades of grass account for, remember guys, like I explained in our previous exam questions, account for means explain. So you must explain the effectiveness of the image. Does this image fit in the context of the poem? Yes, it does. It is effective. Let's see why. Young blades of grass refer to young people who have not been affected by the horrors of apartheid. This image is effective. Why? Just now you need to link the literal and the figurative together. Just as young grass grows with nourishment, the youth of South Africa can also blossom freely in a post-apartheid and democratic South Africa. Account for, the use of the term hesitated. Account for, explain why the speaker uses the term hesitated. So the term hesitated in this context refers to how, at first, the people of South Africa were unsure about how they would respond to the end of apartheid. The experience was new to them, therefore, they were unsure about what to do. 2 points, 2 marks, 2 sentences. Refer to line 4. Then we saw her footprints. Critically discuss the effectiveness of the image in the context of the poem. Again, we get that context of the poem. Again, we get the effectiveness. And again, it's 3 marks. So 3 points. Now we're going to break it up. What is happening in the line? Stop, state the obvious point. In the line, the speaker depicts an image of freedom being personified as a woman walking through the country. At first, the people were waiting in anticipation of a memorable event, but no evidence of it. There was no. This doesn't make sense. But there was no evidence of it. However, however, in line 4, the people now have proof. This image is effective because footprints are a tangible sign that somebody was there, and in this context, the footprints reveals the arrival of freedom that will bring hope and optimism to the people. So remember, context of the poem always refer to the central idea of the poem. Comment on the appropriateness of the use of personification in lines 4 to 6. So it's basically the same. It's this line here, then we saw her footprints, but I don't remember line 5 and 6 out of my head. So remember the tip that I gave you in your exam. Go back to the poem. Go back to line 4 and 6 and highlight. Okay. So we need to refer to the personification. It's the idea of freedom being a woman with footprints, freedom having a face, freedom having eyes, and then freedom waking the people of South Africa up with a smile. Okay, the her there. Okay, so let's go down, let's go back to our answer. The poet personifies freedom and the new beginning of South Africa as being a woman, and this is evident by the use of the terms she and her, females. Now, why is this appropriate? Now we need to explain. Right? We know that females give birth to a new life on earth. Therefore, this female in this poem, right? This female personification of freedom is appropriate, right? Because she's going to give birth, she's going to introduce freedom to the people of South Africa as shown in lines 4 to 6. Sorry, guys, the air here scratching my throat, so apologies. Okay, refer to line 5 and 6. Then we saw her footprints, her face emerge, then her eyes of freedom. Discuss the image you use to describe freedom. So it's just the same type of question asked differently. And once again, we know freedom is personified as a woman with face, eyes, and body part. It is evident that freedom has become a reality to people as they can physically see the body of freedom. So it's just a different interpretation of the question, of those lines, sorry, in a different question. Okay, refer to lines 8. To line 8. We said it is the first day after the war, account from the use of direct speech. So we know that the direct speech in line 8 is reassuring the people that freedom has become a reality. Okay, the response is an indication of unity and peace of the and the confidence that the war has ended. Right. So remember, the people are all saying together, it is the first day of after the war. It's a confirmation, right? That apartheid has ended. Um, I don't know why this one is here. Just take this away. Okay. What does the word ululating in line 10 convey about the feelings of the people? So, two more questions, 2 points. The term ululating refers to an expression of joy. The onomatopoeic word conveys the sound of people's spontaneity and expression of celebration and elation, and it cannot contain the happy emotions, right? So what? So ululating is number one. It's first mark. It's an expression of joy, and what does it convey about the feelings of the people? They are happy, excited, and all of those things. Okay, lines 9 to 11. Now again, I don't remember what's in line 9 to 11, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to highlight. Then, without waiting, we ran to the open space, relating to the mountains and pathways, calling people from all circles of the earth. Okay, cool, let's see. So, the references made to open and rural spaces, they should be in inverted commas because we're quoting from the poem. Critically discuss how this contributes to your understanding of the poem's context. Again, that idea of the poem's context, okay, the central idea. So we're going to break it up as so you have to explain what is open space, and what is the rural places refer to. Just okay. At first, South Africans were hesitant of the news of apartheid's collapse. Therefore, the speaker refers to mountains and open spaces, which means the celebration is now affecting everybody and even those who are in remote areas. So remember, why did the speaker reference to open and rural spaces? Because um, remember, the joy was contained in the beginning, but then it spread out to everybody. It was open, it was over the mountains, and it was in rural places. So everybody was in on this newfound freedom. Okay? The image of open space refers to the end of the restrictive apartheid laws. And then we're gonna refer to, it refers back to the understanding of our understanding in the poem's context, which is the last point. Therefore, the reference contributes to my understanding of the poem as it reveals how close people became to triumph over oppression. There is a celebration of the end of apartheid or the end of the war and the unification of people who were previously separated. Alright, I believe this is a 2 mark question. Last one was a 3 mark question. Okay, sorry guys, I don't know why there are so many errors here in the notes, but nonetheless. Okay, discuss the imagery in lines 10 to 11, relating to the mountains and the pathways calling people from all circles of the earth. So, as a newly democratic nation, South Africa is now united. Remember, even though it's about 28 years later, we refer to literature like it's happening now. So, South Africa is now united with the world at large. Therefore, the people want to share the message of freedom with others. The words mountains and pathways suggest that they want others to join in the celebration, even those from around the world. Okay? And that is all circles of the earth. How does the poet use repetition in lines 12 to 15? Okay, how does the poet's use of repetition in lines 12 to 15 reveal the tone in the poem? Okay, let's just say this is a 3 mark question, 3 points. Okay, repetition of the personal pronoun we emphasizes unity, cohesion, and even reconciliation. Due to the newfound unity among the once divided South Africans, there is an essence of togetherness due to the sharing of joyful experiences, and this contributes to the joyful and hopeful tone. Tone, think of tone, you think of a ringtone. A ringtone has a sound, right? So tone means how do the words in the poem sound? How does the speaker sound? What is the speaker's emotion? That is tone, right? What does the speaker sound? Mood is how does the words make me feel, right? You need to know the difference between the two. What is the significance of the use of the term stranger? Due to previous restrictions caused by the apartheid laws, people could not mix and interact with one another. The use of the term stranger reveals that South Africans, who once considered each other strangers, are reaching out to each other, holding hands, forming real friendships, and becoming united. Okay? So people who were once strangers are no longer strangers anymore. What impression do the words calling, shook, demanding, and shouted reveal about the attitude of the people? Okay, 2 marks. What impression means what idea do these words create? And the second thing, what is the attitude of the people? What is the emotion of the people? The words that calling, shook, demanding, and shouted are forceful and wild action, and these verbs create the impression that people are enthusiastic and determined to enjoy the celebration of the end of apartheid. They are unable to contain their joy, which is expressed in the aforementioned forceful and wild actions. Okay. Comment on how the sensory images in these lines convey the central message of the poem. So, sensory images, right? So, the imagery of the senses, meaning a sight, smell, sound, touch, and taste. Right? Those are sensory images. You give 2 examples from lines 14 to 17, and then you give the central message of the poem. Okay, so let's look at some ideas. The people held hands, which suggests how people feel the touch sense, a close bond with one another. The people shouting across the waterfalls, that refers to your hearing, indicates how the excitement and desire to share their joy with others was heard from afar, and the spirit is so infectious that people come from all lands to celebrate and see each other. So sight and humanity is unified by the occasion. Then we link it to our central message. I would have just given 2 points and then the last one, right? Not three different because then it's 4 marks, but anyway. Therefore, the aforementioned senses in the poem reveal how close people became to triumph over oppression. Right? The same idea. Excuse me. Refer to line 18. We saw our ancestors traveling tall on the horizon. Is this a fitting conclusion? Yes, it is, and we need to justify our response, explain our response, support our response, substantiate, prove. Okay, justify. The reference to ancestors emphasizes that even the spiritual world joins in the celebration of the end of apartheid. The ancestors are traveling tall because they are proud of, of that, proud of, so it's a proud of South Africa and its citizens. So proud, they are proud that South Africa and its citizens are now free from apartheid. The ancestors are on the horizon because, um, although they are not physically present, they are looking over the descendants who are aware of their presence. I would just only give 2 of those 3 points. And the last one, does it fit? Is it an effective, fitting, appropriate conclusion? Therefore, I agree that line 18 is a suitable conclusion to the poem because the line reinforces the idea that the sacrifices of the ancestors have not been in vain. Okay. different question, but similar idea. We saw our ancestors traveling tall on the horizon. Discuss how the imagery in this line um, conveys the central message of the poem. Although they are not physically present, the ancestors are on the horizon because because they are proudly looking over their descendants who are now celebrating their freedom and the end of apartheid. Okay, and again, this image conveys the central message of this poem, which is that even though life, even though in life people suffer and struggle, there is always hope for a new beginning, that a new beginning will occur and bring joy and peace. Okay, so that's just a different way to look at it. Okay, again, comment on the significance of the ancestors in the final line of the poem. In African culture, the ancestors are held in high regard as there is much faith placed in this spirit worship. The seeing of the ancestors suggests that there is a spiritual well-being in the community. Ancestors are satisfied with the freedom, as we know by now. The community has achieved as the ancestors play a very community has achieved as the ancestors play a very important role in the lives of the living descendants. This ensures the newfound freedom will be guided by spirituality. Okay, different interpretation, but remember only 3 points. Account for the alliteration of traveling tall, account for explain. The repetition of the strong T sound emphasizes the strength and proud feeling that the ancestors have over the fact that South Africa has its freedom. So they remember they didn't say the ancestors are walking high with their heads high or their heads up. It's traveling tall. It's the T and the T sound. Traveling tall. Right? So why did the speaker or why did the poet use the alliteration of the T? There's obviously a reason for that. Right? Okay. Account for the repetition of we throughout the poem. Repetition of the personal pronoun we throughout the poem emphasizes the coming together. So it's we, we. And the more you say we, the more it emphasizes, right? That people are together. Remember, it was I, it was us and them, right? Or you and me, but now together, people are together now. It's we, okay? And that emphasizes that people are coming together who were previously divided. Okay, emphasize the feeling of inclusivity and unity. And our last question today, with reference to diction, account for the shift in tone within this poem. The tone of this poem is initially one of disbelief. How does the tone change? And the people were hesitated. Okay, how do we notice disbelief? Because of hesitated. And thereafter, the tone shifts, right? People can't contain their joy anymore because the speaker refers to how South Africans have ecstatic celebration, jubilance, and pride, and this is evident by the term ululating. Okay, therefore, the shift in the tone becomes one of celebratory enthusiasm and excitement. Okay, that's the difference in the tone. Okay, everybody, so I will see you over in part 3 of this video series where we will look at how to write a literature essay on first day after the war. As always, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share with any grade 12s who are in need, right, and might need a different interpretation or my style of teaching. Maybe it will help somebody else. Don't forget to comment below if you finally or if you understand or if you have a different understanding than what you initially had. Okay, so I'll see you guys soon.